Hey y'all, I'm back and I got another little video for y'all. So, are y'all ready? Oh, okay, so let's get into it.
Drop your dot, you know I'm coming. Lace front fucked up, you should've wore your bunny. Running from me, running from me, running from me, running from me.
Okay y'all, so today's video is going to be a girl talk. And honestly, I see a lot of people post videos along those lines on YouTube as to where they'll talk about relationships and families and like problems that a lot of other females deal with and stuff that they can relate to. And honestly, I have a lot of experience with like stuff along those lines and everything like that. So I figured, why not talk about it? Like, why not give my opinion and everything? It might be able to help the next person or whatever too. But I know I did just post a video the other day, but honestly, I look cute, I feel cute. Wait, I am cute. So why not post a video? So if you guys can relate to everything I'm about to say in this video, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, do all that good shit for me. But yeah, let's get into it. A few of the topics that we are going to touch bases on today is going to be toxic relationships. Basically, like, what is it to be in a toxic relationship? How do you identify toxic relationships? Who can be in a toxic relationship? And I'm not talking about just like relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend. No, I'm talking about like friendships, toxic family members, all that. So it's going to be toxic relationships. We're going to talk about self-love, mental health, and self-awareness, because everybody needs to acknowledge those things, honestly, especially as a female. Not saying that these things aren't important for guys. If you're a guy, you can continue watching this video as well, but you know, it's a girl talk. But you know, you can be one of the girls for today too. Also, for today's video, I brought out my handy dandy iPad that I'll be using for literally everything at this point. And I made us a little list for the girls talk. Real cute, real cute. Y'all see that? Why don't I just put the list on the screen? Give me a second, y'all. So this is our list for today's video. This is everything that we are going to pretty much try and touch bases on. Okay, y'all. So the first question on the list is, what is a toxic relationship? And we're going to go based on Google's definition so y'all can understand. But a toxic relationship is a relationship that is damaging to one's mental health, self-esteem, overall well-being. Toxic relationships can be emotionally, physically, and mentally draining. They can leave individuals feeling helpless, insecure, and traumatized. Period. No plagiarism. Let me stop, y'all. But that is the definition of a toxic relationship. Pretty much a toxic relationship is any relationship, whether it be an intimate relationship, a relationship with a family member or a friend, but it's any relationship that pretty much has a negative impact on how you feel about not only them, but yourself as a whole. A toxic relationship is a relationship that you don't feel good about. It's just something that's not sitting right with you. A toxic relationship can be defined by many different things, like different red flags. Whether it's constant arguing, or this person is somebody who just brings you down constantly, or somebody who puts their hands on you, or a relationship that is conditional. When I say conditional, I mean in the sense of this person is like, I'll love you if. There's always a if to how they feel about you or how they choose to handle the relationship. It could also be like, for example, I'll love you if you buy me this. I'll love you if you give me that. Okay, you always have to do something for this person to love you, or for this person to show that they care or show some sort of interest in the relationship. Okay, any other time they're not interested in a relationship at all, whether it's a family or member or a friend. It could be a friend who doesn't call you at all unless they need you for something, a friend that doesn't talk to you, a family member who doesn't talk to you unless they need you for something. Again, people who are using you, that's a toxic relationship. Somebody who never has anything positive to say, somebody who's only negative when they're around you, somebody who comes around you and talks about everybody else, that is considered a toxic relationship as well. The next question is, who can be in a toxic relationship? And the simple answer to that is anybody. There are no boundaries to who's in a toxic relationship, who is and who isn't in a toxic relationship. Honestly, I've been in plenty of toxic relationships, not even just intimately, but family wise. I've had toxic friendships. I've dealt with all of it. Honestly, that is why I say, and why I really don't say much about stuff that happens on the internet and people who post relationships on the internet. Example, Blueface and Krishan. Everybody knows that that is a toxic relationship because of how they choose to talk to each other. A lot of the stuff that they post on the internet is considered toxic. And a lot of people react to stuff like that. Everybody always has something to say about, the stuff that they're posting, a lot of the stuff that they see on the internet. Personally, I don't really say too much about it, just for the simple fact of, even though their stuff is posted on the internet, you never really know what's going on behind closed doors. And another thing is, that could be anybody. It's not just them, okay? Like, it could be your next door neighbor, it could be your best friend, like it could be your mom. Anybody can be in a toxic relationship, and we just don't always know it because it's not publicized. Like, it's not something that everybody can see. It could be happening behind closed doors. Some people have toxic relationships to the point of, they're happy out in public because that's what they want to display. But behind closed doors in the house, there's constant arguments, there's crying, there's screaming, all of it. So anybody can be in a toxic relationship. It's not just stuff that's on social media or anything like that. Me personally, I've had toxic relationships with a lot of people, and that not only falls on them, but it also falls on me. Personally, a toxic relationship can fall on both parties, and I will admit that I have played a role in a lot of the toxic relationships. A toxic relationship that I'll explain right now is my relationship with my father. Me and my father have always had a semi-toxic relationship, but now it's to the point where me and my dad are in a very toxic state where we aren't even speaking at all. Me and my dad have not always had a relationship because he has not always been around. He has not always played a father figure or a father role in my life. I also want to say that my father has a toxic relationship with himself. And that's another thing I also want to add. You can have a toxic relationship with yourself. A relationship is not always just a relationship with another person. You have a relationship with yourself. Some people have positive and healthy relationships with themselves. Some people have toxic relationships with themselves. So my father has a toxic relationship with himself because my father, he makes a lot of bad decisions. My father has always dealt with like substance abuse and stuff like that. And that not only affects the way that he chooses to handle himself and a lot of the decisions that he makes, but that affects his relationship with other people. Sometimes a lot of people who are in toxic relationships can be people who have bad relationships with themselves, and they kind of reflect that onto the other person because they don't really know how to handle their own emotions half the time. A toxic person can be somebody who, just holds in a lot of anger. No, I don't want to say that everybody who has anger or is hurt or dealing with somebody is toxic, but some people who feel a lot of guilt, who feel a lot of anger, sometimes tend to take that out on the people around them. and that causes a toxic relationship. Another cause for toxic relationships is sometimes people just want control over situations, and they want to be able to control the people around them. They want to be able to manipulate you, and when you don't allow them to do that, it kind of takes that power away from them, and that causes them to kind of lash out, honestly. Not only that, there are so many different characteristics of toxic relationships that I wouldn't be able to get into all of them, but there's just so many red flags and so many signs of a toxic person or a toxic relationship in the making that you should look out for. And I'll get into some of that later, but you know, the best way to manage a toxic relationship is personally to, I don't want to say be quiet, but sometimes you just have to. And when I say that, I mean that in a sense of sometimes the person that you're dealing with, maybe they just want to argue. Don't argue back with this person, okay? Don't give them the ammo to keep going. And sometimes, you know, it might hurt you, the stuff that they're choosing to say to you and a lot of the stuff that you're dealing with. And I understand that because, you know, nobody ever should have to deal with that. Nobody should have to deal with a toxic relationship. Nobody wants to sit there and be quiet while this person is damaging them, okay? I understand, but sometimes you have to just sit back and be quiet and let them play themselves, honestly, okay? You have to play it how it is, okay? So sometimes that looks like just not answering them. Like when they try to argue, they say something that they know is going to get a reaction out of you. Don't give them that reaction. Sometimes you just have to walk away and just let it be. Now, me personally, with my situation as far as my father, I ended up just blocking my father on everything. I blocked a lot of my family members on everything because this side of the family has been very toxic. I deal with a lot of toxic family members. So I just blocked my dad. And honestly, it probably shouldn't have got to the point where I had to do that, but I'm not going to allow him to sit here and damage my mental health and everything that I have going for myself, because that's pretty much what a toxic relationship will do to you. As I stated in the definition earlier, a toxic relationship is damaging to your well-being, is damaging to your self-preservation, okay? So don't stick around and let it do that. I understand toxic relationships can be very depressing, okay? You will feel like, you know, while you're going through it, you have no energy. You don't want to do anything else. Like, you know, you're just upset because you're sitting there trying to figure out why a lot of the things that's happening to you, or why this person is treating you like this when they never treated you like that before. Don't sit there and try to figure it out, because half the time, sometimes that person doesn't even know themselves. You can't figure out anything or look for an answer that the person can't give you. For some people, it's kind of hard to walk away from a toxic relationship because there are other factors. It could be you have love for that person, or you're thinking about the bond or the history that you have with this person, or it could be family. So you're keeping that in mind. Like, I don't want to stop talking to my family. You know, like my family is all I have. This person is all I have. All that. Sometimes they want you to feel that way. They want you to feel as though they're all that you have, so you won't leave. But sometimes that's what you have to do. But it's not always going to be easy to just up and walk away, and it does take time, okay? Sometimes you have to get to the point where you are just so fed up and you don't want to deal with it anymore, where you just up and leave. It's going to happen eventually, but it's not going to happen right now just because you're watching this video as to how to walk away from a toxic relationship. It's not going to be that easy, you know? It takes a build up. Sometimes you have to work towards that, whether it's, you know, you start off by distancing yourself from this person. You're looking for resources. If you live with this person, you're looking for how to move. You're trying to move. You're trying to stack your money. Like, you're trying to get everything situated so you can remove yourself from that situation. You're taking steps as to how to manage. One of the main things in managing a toxic relationship, you have to acknowledge that you're in one. A lot of people do not acknowledge that they're in a toxic relationship, and sometimes that's why they choose to stick around, even though the people around them If it's public, well, not just public, but sometimes the people around you can tell that you're in a toxic relationship, and they'll be telling you. It can be your best friend, it can be anybody. They will tell you that you're in a toxic relationship, and sometimes you kind of just ignore it because you don't see it for yourself. Okay, you're kind of like in denial in a sense. Another thing is always having someone to talk to when you're going through toxic relationships and dealing with toxic situations. Always have someone that you trust to talk to, because God forbid, you never really know what can happen to you one day. You never really know what's going to happen, because it could be that one day where this person just lashes out and they do something that affects you, or something dangerous or anything like that, which is why it's always best to remove yourself from the situation and have somebody who understands and knows everything that's going on. I also want to say, in terms of that, now in regard to intimate relationships, sometimes having someone to talk to cannot always be a good thing. Now, when I say that in the sense of, say you're in a relationship and your partner has maybe like a best friend that they talk to, right? Now, this is not in terms of like toxic relationships where, you guys are constantly fighting and somebody's putting their hands on so-and-so. None of that. But just in a simple relationship where you guys are just having disagreements like any other relationship does. Sometimes it's not always good to give your business out to everybody else and best friends and everything like that. I say that because that person is going to be your friend. So your best friend is always going to take your side. But if they don't have a relationship with your partner, their opinion is always going to be semi-biased, unless they can really reach out and get the other side of the story. But they're going to be biased. That can cause problems with your relationship, and that can cause problems between your friend and said partner, because now your friend has this bias of the person that you're in a relationship with. Because sometimes, understand, when we're angry, we only tell the negative stuff that's going on, and we don't really tell why the person or why the partner reacted the way that they did, or why the partner made the decision or said what it is that they said. We'll only tell people the negative, and we won't think about the positive, because that's what happened when we're mad. When we're mad, we don't think about the positive stuff and everything else that happened in a relationship, and we tell this person the negative stuff. So now they have this biased opinion of your partner, or they don't like them and everything like that. Especially when you're going to stay with this person. If you are going to stay in a relationship with this person, do not speak negatively on them at all. Like, that just, it's not worth it. It's just going to cause a whole lot of problems between the relationship, because now people are like, oh, but you just said they did this, that, and the third, and like you're staying with them, and nobody needs that trouble. How can a toxic relationship affect you? A toxic relationship can affect you in so many different ways. As I said earlier, it can affect you physically, mentally, emotionally, anything. It can be to the point where this relationship makes you feel sick to your stomach. This relationship makes you feel as though you don't want to do anything at all. You don't have the motivation to get up every day. You don't have the drive. You don't want to go to work because you're being drained. You're literally being drained, and you're putting all your energy into this relationship that's not good for you, and it's taking all your energy away. It's taking your energy to do everything else that you really need to do, and you're not able to be productive because you're stuck in this relationship. It can hurt you. It can make you depressed. Everything. So much stuff can come out of being in a toxic relationship. I know when I went through a lot of my toxic relationships, whether it was like an ex-boyfriend or like my father, that stuff used to hurt me so bad. Like, I would sit in my room and literally cry, trying to figure out why everything is happening the way that it's happening, or why is this person suddenly acting this way, or why can't we just be on good terms? Why can't everything just go back to how it was before? Everything like that. Sometimes it's really not meant to be that way, so it's really no point in wondering why things are happening the way that it's happening. Now, it's going to happen. It's going to be on your mind a lot. I understand, but Sometimes you have to think about what's best for you. You have to do what's best for you. And you have to acknowledge that. And that leads me into the next topic, and that is self-love. Why is self-love important? Self-love is very important because when you love yourself, there is no room for anybody else to judge you, okay? You won't be worried about anybody else when you love yourself. You won't be worried about how anybody's looking at you. You won't be worried about, oh my God, like, I'm not gonna look like everybody else in the room, like everybody else looks so nice. You're not gonna sit here tearing yourself apart when you love yourself. Self-love is important because when you love yourself, you are in your happiest state, okay? And I will tell you for a fact, self-love is being free. Self-love is accepting yourself. That semi-answers the next question, but the next question is, what does it mean to love yourself? To love yourself is to accept yourself, flaws and all. That means, trying to change the negative into a positive. Like, for example, like, instead of picking yourself apart and looking at the flaws that you have, take that flaw and make something positive out of it. Self-love is doing things for yourself. You're not doing anything to please anybody else. You're not doing anything to make anybody else happy. You're doing everything for your own happiness. You're doing everything for your own preservation. Like, you're doing things to feel good about yourself. Whether it's going out, going to the spa, getting your nails done is self-love. Getting your hair done, that's self-love. Like, going out, like taking pictures, that is all considered self-love. How does self-love affect your relationships? Self-love affects your relationships because if you don't love yourself, you cannot expect anybody else out here to love you. Now, I get it, you're gonna be like, oh my God, I don't love myself. Like, you're gonna be looking for that validation and everything like that. Sometimes people are gonna give you that validation. Oh, well, like, I love you through everything, like, you don't like this and the third about yourself, but I love you, blah, blah, blah. I get that, okay? But it doesn't mean anything unless you can say that stuff about yourself. Yes, it's nice hearing it from other people. It's always going to be nice hearing good things about yourself from other people because you want to know how other people perceive you. But when you love yourself, nobody else's opinions matter, okay? If you don't love yourself, you're always going to find something negative in your relationships as well, because you're going to be thinking this person in the relationship can see these same flaws that you see. It's going to make you insecure. Now you're sitting there like, you know what, like, I don't feel pretty today, so maybe so-and-so thinks the same way. It's going to affect your outlook on how these people view you, and you're pretty much going to tear yourself down. Also, if you don't love yourself while you're in a relationship, you're always going to be looking for constant validation from your partner, and that's not always good. Yes, it's good to reassure somebody, but constant validation is not okay, because, it's going to be the one time where this person doesn't validate you or anything like that, and you're going to feel bad. Also, you just shouldn't be seeking validation from anybody else, okay? Because people are going to view you how they choose to view you, regardless of how you try to make yourself seem or anything like that. Only person who really knows who you are on both the inside and the outside is you. You're the only person who really knows your heart, and until you can accept that and display that you know yourself, it's not genuine. Sometimes it can be a struggle to love yourself, and I myself will admit that I've struggled with self-love literally my whole entire life. I've always picked apart little like bits and pieces of myself and always like judged myself way too hard, and so much harder than what I should have. Even then, like, I always picked my flaws apart, and it used to make me upset because I'm literally sitting here putting all this onto myself, telling myself that I'm not good enough, or I don't look like so-and-so, or, my hair is not right, or, I don't like this and the third. I don't like my voice. I don't do this and the third. And honestly, that affected a lot over the years, because because I chose not to love myself and because I chose to feel insecure about myself, that affected my relationships with other people, and that affected how I chose to move. A lot of the decisions that I made and everything, like, it was to a point where I really didn't even like going out in public. I wouldn't even smile because I would be like, no, like, my teeth don't look right. Like, oh, like, I always have to have my hair done. I can't, like, I have to have a wig on. I have to have my hair braided because I don't want to have my natural hair out. Okay. My struggle with self-love was literally like my biggest thing coming up. Okay, like, I used to be so depressed. I would literally sit in my room and cry because, like, I just felt like I wasn't good enough. And honestly, I'm still working on that. I'm so much better than what I was before. Like, I'm starting to actually like appreciate myself and everything like that, and that's really what it is too. You have to appreciate yourself, honestly, and that's something that I definitely struggle with coming up. I was not able to appreciate myself the way that I should have, and I never gave myself enough credit for the things that I did do right or the things that I did feel good about. I never gave myself credit. Our next topic is going to be mental health. Now, let's talk about mental health in Black communities, Black households, Black families, all that. Now, it has been scientifically proven that Black households and Black communities do not take mental health as serious as some other communities. There's been a lot of people who have felt like this as well or dealt with something a lot similar, but sometimes we don't take mental health as serious, and it could be coming from our parents or anybody. It's normally like an older generation who kind of looks down on the younger generation who talk about mental health, and they don't take it as serious, or they kind of just ignore it and push it to the side and everything like that. I can definitely say that's something that I have dealt with and experienced myself. Coming up, I had a lot going on, and honestly, my mental health was just like so low. Like, I was never really in the right mind state, and sometimes I would show it. I would lash out, I would talk about it, and it kind of just like went ignored and everything like that because it just wasn't taken serious, you know. It's kind of like sometimes our community makes fun of stuff like that, and when I say that, it's kind of taken as though like it's a joke, right? So say like mental hospitals and stuff like that, sometimes our community makes fun of stuff like that. Like, they use it as a joke. Oh yeah, you're acting crazy, I'm gonna put you in a mental hospital, like, I'm gonna do this, that, and the third. But they don't say it in the sense of they're serious about it. They're just saying it to make fun of your situation or what you're projecting. And sometimes when we have parents or grandparents or family members who ignore stuff like that, that can definitely affect you. You know, it makes you feel kind of bad, and it makes you scared to like reach out and ask for help and everything like that, because it's just like nobody takes anything like that serious. It's not taken serious. It's kind of just ignored. So it's just like, why should I ask for help, or why should I continue to speak on this if it's just going to be ignored? Nobody's going to listen to me, or somebody's just going to laugh in my face, and that's not always good. That's why a lot of people deal with some of the struggles that they deal with now, because I feel like a lot of people have tried to speak out about their mental health, and it kind of got a reaction similar to that. Like, somebody kind of laughed and made a joke about it, or, you know, they didn't take it as serious as what they should have. How does mental health affect your day-to-day life? Similar to self-love, mental health will definitely affect your day-to-day life, because it affects your productivity and how you feel throughout the course of the day. If your mental health is not right, you're not going to want to do anything. Like, you can feel you'll feel constantly tired, like you don't have the strength, you don't have the energy, you feel physically sick. You just feel so down and depressed, and you just, you know, you're upset. Sometimes mental health affects your needs, your essential needs. You don't want to eat, like you don't want to drink anything. You can get so depressed, you don't want to take showers, you don't want to do anything. And that's why I say mental health is so important. It's not just like physical health and everything like that. Like, it's not just staying fit physically, you need to stay fit mentally as well. When should you acknowledge your mental health? Your mental health should always be acknowledged. There is never a time in your life where you should ignore your mental health. You can physically and literally feel your mental health being drained, okay? I don't know if I worded that correctly, but sometimes you can literally just feel when you're not right mentally, okay? You'll feel yourself changing, okay? When your mental health is declining, you'll feel yourself changing. You'll feel yourself getting depressed, and you'll feel yourself like slowly, like, you'll feel yourself slowing down, okay? How can you improve your mental health? Honestly, there's a lot of things that can improve your mental health. A lot of the things that people usually do recommend is stuff like therapy and, just finding things to help you cope and deal with a lot of, day-to-day struggles, stuff to get your mind off of a lot of the situations that's going on in your life or a lot of the things that you're dealing with. Kind of look for like another way out, a peaceful way out. So for me personally, I listen to music. I like listening to music. I'll go out, I'll do things with I'll do things for myself. Sometimes I'll just, there's times where I will just sit in the house and watch YouTube all day. Now, I don't want to say that's really improving your mental health, but it's kind of taking it's like a short release. It's kind of taking your mind off of whatever you have going on in that moment. But stuff like going to the spa, having someone to talk to, listening to music, hanging with friends, positive friends, find positive people to hang around with, just doing things for yourself, that improves your mental health and your self-love as well. That's just self-preservation as a whole. Like I just said, always just try to acknowledge your mental health. You can't improve something that you don't take the time to acknowledge. Take the time to sit there and think about why you feel the way you feel, what you're going through, all that. You have to acknowledge that as the first step. That's like the first thing you have to do. The last topic that I'm going to speak on is self-awareness. So what is it to be self-aware? And this kind of like ties everything together, but self-awareness is understanding, it's literally just understanding yourself. Self-awareness is understanding your own habits, understanding where you are mentally, just acknowledging yourself. Honestly, that's really what it is. I mean, in my own words, but I'll put the definition up here as well. Improving your self-awareness always starts with you. So some ways to improve your self-awareness is honestly, you can track a lot of the things that you do on a day-to-day. So me personally, I do digital planning and I do like journaling and stuff like that. And I literally will write down everything that I felt, how I reacted, everything throughout the course of the day. And I'll acknowledge that sometimes maybe this isn't how I should have reacted. Maybe I could have reacted to this situation differently. Or maybe I could have said this instead of saying that. That is being self-aware, okay? It's taking the time to acknowledge when you could have did things differently, taking the time to acknowledge things that's going on within yourself. Accepting yourself is one of the things of being self-aware. I feel like taking time to meditating is a good way to improve your self-awareness. Just take the time to sit there, like, in silence, like, be peaceful, like you have time to think about a lot of the things that you have going on within yourself and around you. That is improving your self-awareness. Write down your goals, get feedback from the people around you. If people are telling you, you know what, you act this way, you do this, that, and the third, or I don't like it when you do this, and you know that sometimes you actually do that, that is a step of being self-aware, okay? Taking the time to acknowledge when you can do things differently, or actually listening to some of the things that people are saying around you when they're trying to give you feedback and everything like that. Am I self-aware? Honestly, my self-awareness has been improving, but I don't want to say I'm fully self-aware of a lot of the things that I do or say and everything, because sometimes I do still say things out of anger and then I don't think about it till after the fact. Sometimes I don't stop myself in the moment when I can, and that can lead to other situations. I can say personally, sometimes I'm in denial of my own flaws. Sometimes I don't want to accept some of the things that other people say about me. And that is one of the things that I can work on as far as being self-aware, actually listening and taking feedback. Even sometimes when my mother says certain things about me, she's like, girl, you just don't listen to me. Like, you need to learn to just shut up and listen instead of going back and forth with me. Yeah, that's something that I can do to be more self-aware. I can acknowledge that sometimes I don't always listen to my mother. Sometimes I be sitting there talking over her and everything, like, and then I'm thinking about it after the fact when something happened or the thing that she was explaining to me actually happened, and I'm like, dang, I should have just listened to her. That is a part of being self-aware. So sometimes you just have to sit back and listen and pay attention and observe. Not only try to observe from somebody else's point of view, but observe from within yourself. Yeah, take the time to sit there and try to actually see yourself. Look at yourself from somebody else's eyes, okay? So if you were somebody on the outside looking in, how would you view yourself if you were treating somebody else a certain kind of way, or you were making certain decisions and stuff like that? That is being self-aware. Now, I just want to say that all of these things are really important and they really all just tie in together, which is why I somewhat chose those 4 topics to speak about, because they all really just go hand in hand. You know, you can't really just have one without having the other, you know, because say like your self-love affects your relationships, or, you know, your level of self-love can cause a toxic relationship. Remember, I said sometimes people who are in toxic relationships have a bad relationship with themselves. It's because of the level of love that they have for themselves that cause them to react certain ways. Mental health can affect your relationships. Mental health can affect your self-love. Self-love can affect your mental health. If you don't choose to love yourself, that can affect you mentally because it's going to bring you down, you know? Being self-aware affects your relationships. If you're not aware of the stuff that you're doing, that's going to affect both you and your partner, because sometimes your partner sees everything that you don't want to see in yourself. Honestly, that's why it's always just best to focus on improving yourself, self-preservation, all that. Doing things for yourself will improve all of those, okay? Being active, everything, like just training your mind, all that will improve everything, and it just makes you feel so much better about yourself. That's also why it's best to just remove yourself from any negative situations, you know, situations that you don't want to be in, situations that you feel are bringing you down, situations that are affecting you negatively, and situations that are hurting you. Just remove yourself from the situation. If you can't remove yourself from the situation, do your best to just try to, you know, divert your attention from that situation so that that's not all that you're choosing to focus on, you know? Sometimes if you have to go outside, go on walks, listen to music, you know, go stay at somebody's house, go on like a short trip, like work more hours. If you're working, work more hours, okay? Especially if you have stuff going on at home, work more hours. And you won't really have to be in the house as much as what you are, you know? So there's a lot of things that you can do to just improve those things for yourself and just do better for yourself. You want better for yourself, so just do better for yourself. And understand that nothing that you deal with or go through is ever really your fault, okay? A lot of the things that happen to us, we don't really understand why it happened. We can't really just pick apart why other people just choose to do and say and treat us the way that they choose to, you know? It's not for us to try and pick apart, okay? People are going to just treat you however they want to treat you, however they feel, all that, okay? It's not for us to. It's not for us to figure out. As long as you love yourself, that's all that ever really matters, you know? Just do for yourself. Make yourself happy. Don't worry about anybody else trying to make you happy. Don't worry about trying to be the source of anybody else's happiness. Nothing. Just do for yourself, okay? But that is going to conclude our little girl talk for tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna make a part 2 with like different topics and probably like getting a little bit more into, you know, other things, and probably getting into these topics one by one. But this is just gonna conclude it for today. But if you can relate or if you understand some of the things that I was talking about, I know it's kind of long, but you know, just like, comment, and subscribe. But until I see you guys again, peace, love, and happiness. Bye, y'all. I do that 3 more times again.